It feels personal, deeply, uncomfortably personal. The moment you enter a trade, after hours of analysis, after waiting for the perfect setup, after summoning the courage to commit, the market moves against you. Not 5 minutes before, not 10 minutes after. Right after you click buy, the candle turns red. The position bleeds. And in that moment, sitting alone in front of your screen, a thought begins to crystallize in your mind. Why does this always happen to me? It's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition gone rogue. Your brain, designed over millennia to detect threats and find meaning in chaos, is doing exactly what it was built to do, connecting dots that may not actually be connected. The feeling is so visceral, so consistent, that it transcends mere coincidence. It feels orchestrated, targeted, personal. But here's the truth that changes everything. The market isn't reacting to you. It never was. It doesn't know your name, your account size, or the fact that you just risked money you can't afford to lose. The market is simply moving billions of dollars of collective human behavior, creating waves that have nothing to do with your individual position. Understanding this distinction isn't just philosophical. It's the foundation of sustainable trading psychology. Trading isn't just numbers scrolling across a screen. It's not merely technical analysis or risk-reward ratios. Trading is decision, risk, and consequence, all compressed into seconds of heart-pounding action. The moment you execute a trade, you've transformed from passive observer to active participant. You put skin in the game. Real money. Your money. Money that represents hours of your life, future opportunities, dreams deferred or realized. When money is involved, the brain doesn't process outcomes as neutral data points. It treats them as deeply personal events with immediate survival implications. This isn't a flaw in your psychology. It's a feature of your evolutionary wiring. Our ancestors who were cavalier about resources didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. Those who felt genuine emotional pain at loss, who learned from mistakes, who connected outcomes to decisions, they thrived. Wins feel like validation because they confirm your competence, your judgment, your worth as a decision maker. Your brain releases dopamine, the same neurochemical associated with food, sex, and other survival-critical rewards. Losses, conversely, feel like rejection, a painful signal that you've made an error, wasted resources, failed in a fundamental way. The amygdala activates, stress hormones flood your system, and your body enters a state indistinguishable from physical threat. This isn't drama, it's neuroscience. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between losing money and facing danger. Every trade carries a hidden message to the ego, a whispered judgment about who you are as a person. This happens beneath conscious awareness, in the shadow spaces where identity and action intertwine. When you place a trade, you're not just predicting price movement. You're making a statement about your intelligence, your skill, your ability to read reality correctly. The trade becomes a referendum on your competence. A win says, you were right. You saw what others missed. You're skilled, intelligent, capable. The ego expands, confidence surges, and suddenly you feel like you've unlocked some secret code to the market. It's intoxicating, addictive. You walk taller, think sharper, see opportunities everywhere. A loss whispers something far more insidious. You were wrong. You missed obvious signals. You're not as good as you thought. The ego contracts, doubt creeps in, and suddenly every decision feels uncertain. The same charts that looked crystal clear an hour ago now seem impossibly complex, filled with contradictory signals and hidden traps. And here's the critical insight. The mind doesn't separate the trade from the person who placed it. You become your positions. Your wins define you as smart. Your losses condemn you as foolish. This conflation is the root of almost every psychological mistake traders make. When a trade moves against you, you're not just watching a position lose money. You're experiencing an assault on your identity, a challenge to your fundamental sense of competence and worth. Losses hurt more than wins feel good. This isn't opinion. It's documented psychological phenomenon called loss aversion. Research shows that the pain of losing $100 is roughly twice as intense as the pleasure of gaining $100. This asymmetry is hardwired into human psychology, a survival mechanism that kept our ancestors alive in environments where a single mistake could mean death. So when price moves against you, when that beautifully analyzed trade starts bleeding red, your brain doesn't just register disappointment. It registers threat, pain, injustice. And in that moment of emotional intensity, your mind desperately searches for meaning, for explanation, for some way to make sense of the discomfort. It's easier to believe the market is against you than to accept randomness. Randomness is terrifying because it means you have no control, no way to predict or prevent future pain. But if the market is targeting you, if there's some malevolent force or algorithm hunting your stop losses, then at least there's a reason, a pattern, something to understand and potentially outsmart. This is why conspiracy theories about market manipulation resonate so powerfully with struggling traders. The idea that they are hunting retail stop losses, that market makers see your orders and trade against you, that the game is rigged. These narratives feel true because they transform random pain into purposeful persecution. Paradoxically, feeling victimized is more psychologically comfortable than accepting that you're simply one participant among millions in a chaotic, indifferent system. Once trading feels personal, discipline collapses. This transformation happens gradually, then suddenly. You stop following your trading plan because the market isn't playing fair. You widen stop losses because you know price will come back. You add to losing positions because you're right and the market is wrong. The language shifts from objective to emotional, from probabilistic to absolute. You defend trades instead of managing risk. You argue with price action as if candlesticks can hear your protests. You enter positions not based on setup quality, but to prove something to the market, to yourself, to that voice in your head that questions your competence. Trading quietly, insidiously, turns into a conversation with your ego rather than a response to market conditions. This is where accounts blow up, not from single catastrophic losses, but from the slow erosion of objectivity that occurs when outcomes become identity statements. You hold losers too long because closing them feels like admitting defeat. You cut winners too early because you need to prove you can be right now. You overtrade because each loss demands revenge, each win demands validation. The dangerous belief that the market is personal, that it's reacting to you, transforms trading from a probabilistic game into an emotional battlefield. And on that battlefield, you're always fighting yourself. The market, indifferent as always, simply continues moving according to the collective decisions of millions of participants who don't know you exist. The market has no memory of you, no awareness of your last devastating loss or your recent winning streak, no interest in your growing confidence or crushing self-doubt, no opinion about whether you deserve success or failure. This isn't cruelty, it's simply reality. The market is not a conscious entity. It's not even a thing. It's a process. The market is collective behavior made visible. It's millions of participants, institutional algorithms, retail traders, hedgers, speculators, investors, all making decisions based on their unique information, time frames, risk tolerances, and psychological states. When you see price move, you're watching the aggregate of those decisions manifest in real time. Orders meeting orders. Supply intersecting with demand. Nothing more, nothing less. There's no malevolent force targeting your stop loss. No algorithm specifically designed to hunt retail traders. No conspiracy to keep you from success. The massive institutional orders that move markets aren't aware of your 0.01 lot position. They can't be. You're trading in an ocean where your position is a single drop of water. This realization is simultaneously humbling and liberating. Humbling because it strips away the illusion that your individual actions matter to the market. Liberating because it means the market's movements are not judgments about you. Price doesn't go against you because you're unlucky, stupid, or cursed. It moves because millions of other participants are making decisions based on information and incentives completely unrelated to your existence. Clarity returns when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What does this data show?" That shift alone, that single reframing of the question, changes how you trade, how you feel, and ultimately whether you succeed. The first question assumes persecution, seeks meaning in randomness, and keeps you trapped in emotional reactivity. The second question assumes neutrality, seeks probability in patterns, and opens the door to objective analysis. When you ask, "Why me?" you're asking a question that has no answer because it's based on a false premise. The market didn't happen to you. It simply happened. Your trade intersected with market movement. Sometimes that intersection is favorable, sometimes it's not. No different than traffic lights turning red as you approach. The light didn't target you. You simply arrived when it was red. But when you ask, "What does this data show?" you're entering the realm of productive analysis. What does this price action reveal about supply and demand dynamics? What does this reaction to news suggest about market expectations? What does my emotional response tell me about my risk management? These questions have answers. These questions lead to learning, adaptation, improvement. This shift transforms losses from personal failures into tuition paid for market education. It transforms wins from validation into probability expressing itself in your favor. You become a scientist observing phenomena rather than a participant seeking judgment. And in that space of scientific curiosity, emotional reactivity dissolves. You can lose money without losing your mind. You can win money without inflating your ego. You can trade. Detachment isn't coldness. It's not about becoming emotionless or robotic, suppressing your humanity in pursuit of profit. That's a common misconception that leads traders to deny their emotions rather than master them. Authentic detachment is maturity, the hard-won ability to experience emotions without being controlled by them, to acknowledge feelings without letting them dictate decisions. You can care deeply about your process while remaining detached from individual outcomes. You can feel disappointment when a trade fails without interpreting that failure as a referendum on your worth. You can experience excitement when a trade succeeds without believing you've mastered the market. This is emotional regulation, not emotional suppression. The skilled trader feels fear, but executes anyway when the setup is valid. Feels greed, but takes profit according to the plan. Feels frustration, but avoids revenge trading. The emotions are present, acknowledged, even honored, but they don't drive decisions. This is what detachment actually means. Emotions inform but don't control. This skill develops slowly through repetition and conscious practice. It requires catching yourself in moments of emotional reactivity and choosing a different response. It requires brutal honesty about when you're trading your plan versus trading your feelings. It requires accepting that you'll never achieve perfect detachment. There will always be moments when losses sting and wins feel validating. But you can consistently improve your ability to observe these reactions without acting on them. That's when patience replaces urgency. When you can wait for your setup without forcing trades. When you can sit in cash without feeling like you're missing out. When you can take a loss without immediately seeking to make it back. This is the transformation that separates consistent traders from struggling traders. Not intelligence, not strategy, not even discipline in the traditional sense, but the mature capacity to trade without needing each trade to prove something about who you are. The market isn't personal. Let that truth settle into your bones, into your decision-making process, into the moment before you click buy or sell. The market doesn't know you, can't target you, will never validate or condemn you. It simply moves, indifferent and eternal, expressing the collective will of millions of participants who don't know you exist. But your reaction is personal, deeply, unavoidably personal. The meaning you assign to wins and losses, the stories you tell yourself about why things happen, the emotional charge you attach to outcomes. These are entirely within your control. Not easy to control, but possible. This is where your power lies, not in predicting the market, but in mastering your response to it. Master that internal realm, and trading becomes clearer. The noise diminishes. The emotional roller coaster flattens. You see setups more objectively because you're not searching for validation. You manage risk more consistently because you're not defending your ego. You follow your plan more faithfully because you're not trying to prove anything. Trading becomes calmer. Not boring, not emotionless, but calm. Like the focused attention of a surgeon, the steady hands of a pilot, the quiet confidence of a craftsman who knows their tools and trusts their training. The drama dissolves, leaving only the work. And trading becomes far less emotional. Not because you don't care, but because you care about the right things. Process over outcome, consistency over perfection, growth over validation. Your identity becomes separate from your trading results. You're not your last trade, your last week, your last drawdown. You are the person showing up to learn, to practice, to improve. This is the transformation that few traders complete, but all can achieve. It requires nothing extraordinary, no genius-level intelligence, no massive capital, no secret strategy. It requires only the willingness to see the market as it is rather than as you need it to be. Mind over market, not in the sense of outsmarting or outpredicting the market, but in the sense of mastering the only variable you truly control, yourself. Do that, and everything else becomes simpler. Not easy, but simpler. And in that simplicity lies the path to sustainable trading success.